Hey, welcome back to the Girl Be Free podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan, your clarity cultivator and founder of Be Free Project. I help women who are ready to flourish, feel fulfilled, and be free to show up for themselves. I am extremely passionate about community, sisterhood, and personal growth. So if that's your jam, you are in the right place. And now let's get into the show. Hey, welcome back to the Girl Be Free podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan, your clarity cultivator, where I'm going to inspire you to show up for yourself. This week, we're having another Chasing Free series, and today I get to interview my friend Aycee Brown, and she helps thought leaders and entrepreneurs tap into their magic and unleash their desires by becoming who they truly are through the power of human design. Aycee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Fran.
Yay, I'm so excited. I think this is going to be a really, really good conversation, especially to my audience who may not be familiar with human design, and you can kind of share some insight on that. So, what inspired you to pursue your dreams and begin creating the life you want?
Oh gosh, where should I begin? No. It's so many failures that led up to this point.
Hmm.
And when I say failures, I mean I am a very tenacious person and I go for what I want. And when it comes to human design, and we'll talk about that, I was totally living opposite. So I come from a family of people like you, generators. Both of my parents are generators, and so they're workers. They work, they are in it for the long haul. And so, me being a projector, which we'll talk about in a second, that's what I saw. So I saw my parents working towards the things that they wanted, not pushing towards things, but the longevity and stuff. And it almost was forcing it for me. So I always tried different things, tried to do different things, all of that stuff. And so for me, not, I don't want to say backfire, but I hit a lot of brick walls, a lot of starting things, failing at them, a lot of trying to make things happen all the time and things not working out. And so I just sort of allowed life to happen in a way where it was more flowing than forcing, and then that's how I got here. If that makes any
So
sense.
no, it makes perfect sense. And so before we even get into further questions, I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about human design because you mentioned generator, you mentioned projector, and just to give a little insight, especially for people who are not familiar with human design.
So human design is a combination of astrology, the I Ching, metaphysics, the chakra system. It is how I like to explain it. If you think about your natal chart as a finished, anybody who's familiar with astrology, as a finished IKEA bookcase, because everybody's built something from IKEA. Human design is the instructions on how to get there. So it's the tools to help you make better decisions in order for you to fulfill your natal chart. That's my interpretation of it. So it's a combination of all those things, but it helps you um, make decisions to fulfill these certain things that are in your natal chart, that help you align with your destiny and with your purpose, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And
Yeah.
so I know we spoke, like, what was it, a year ago now?
Gosh, almost a year
Almost.
and a half
Okay,
ago.
when we did my chart for the first time.
Yes.
And prior to speaking to you, I had no idea what human design work was even about. And now it makes so much sense as I read more and then you share more with me or whatever, and knowing that I'm a generator and how everything kind of works together. So just talk about, like, because I know there's 4 or 5.
Five.
Yeah, okay,
There's
there you go.
five. Well, technically four, but technically five. So there are, well, the manifesting generator and generator sort of get clumped together because they're in the majority of the population. But if you split it down the middle of 33% or 35% each, they make up the majority of the population. So generators, which is yourself, you guys are here to respond and then act. You're the builders. You're here to do things over time, mastery over time. So Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, they are generators. And then you have manifesting generators who are here to find the quickest way to do something. They're about finding shortcuts to mastery. And that's another 35% of the population. Tyler Perry, Who else? Gabrielle Union, Tracy Ellis Ross, those are manifesting generators. Jennifer Lopez, those are manifesting generators. Then you have projectors, which is myself, and we are here to guide and direct other people's energy, but we are mostly here to wait to be invited or to be recognized. And projectors, President Obama, Cardi B, Princess Diana, those are projectors. Then you have manifestors, which are the only ones in human design who can do stuff. They're like the epitome of the Nike moniker, just do it. Those are manifestors. And manifestors are J.K. Rowling, Ian Levine Zant, Maya Angelou. Those are manifestors. Then you have reflectors. They are the smallest percentage. It's maybe 1% of reflectors. There's not a lot of famous ones except for Sandra Bullock. She's a reflector. And no, and actually Robert De Niro, I believe, is a reflector too. Yes, let me double check. And sometimes you'll hear that, oh, Michael Jackson's a reflector, but it's actually wrong. He is not a reflector. He's a projector. They have his birth time wrong. Somebody put his birth time as AM um, when it's actually PM. So that changes everything. No, Robert De Niro is a manifestor, sorry. But just Sandra Bullock. Oh, and Scott Hamill, who's an ice skater.
Oh, I'm like,
I
who is
don't know.
that?
He's a 90s, 80s and 90s figure skater, Scott
Okay.
Hamill. Like,
You
he's
know what? I
famous
actually
stuff.
do know who that is because I used to love watching figure
I love ice
skating.
skating. Yeah, I love
Yes,
figure
and I
skating.
remember him. I remember that name. And now when you say ice skater, I'm
Yes.
sure
So
I've seen
Scott
him.
Hamill is a reflector, but mostly Sandra Bullock, and that's the one that everybody identifies
Mhm.
with. So that is what human design, the types are, the aura types, as you'll hear me say, or if you follow me, that's what I refer to.
I love that. And so what I know is that in order to be able to understand like what your aura type is, like people have to, complete like a form on your website or something like that and give their date of birth and their time. And then that way you're able to kind of tell them where they fall. Because once you learn, I feel like where you fall, everything just makes a little bit more sense. And even when you listed off the celebrities and then you said the description, it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense based on how we see them. So.
Yeah. So you can either Google it and go to just find a free human design like to put your stuff in, or you can go to my Instagram and I have a form where you can fill out. And then once you find out what your aura type is, then you would want to get a chart reading by someone like myself, or you could develop, what people do is they just go through my podcast and they listen to all the episodes. They go
Mhm.
through all of my Instagram and they do that. And just to get an understanding what human design really is, though, it's like I said, it is a better decision making tool to help you make decisions. When you finally understand your strategy and your authority, you make better decisions to move you towards your destiny, which is that whole thing of fulfilling your natal chart to get closer.
Gotcha. And I will make sure that I link to all your things in the show notes so then people can start to do their own research. So tell me, how does your business line up with your purpose in life?
Well, so many ways. My purpose in life is to help people figure out where they belong. And so with human design and with my coaching and strategy and all of that stuff, I'm able to use my experience, my knowledge, my education to help people figure out where they belong, wherever they are in life. I think that it's a skill of mine that I meet people where they are. I don't box them in or put them in a program or put them like, oh, just join this, just do that, because everybody is different where they are, where they need to be. We start out, of course, with human design because that's the baseline, but there's so much more to you than all of these modalities and your astrology, than human design, than your Enneagram. There's so much more to you because you have so many pieces to your puzzle that have been, you know, put together and accumulated through childhood, through experiences, through pain, through all of this stuff. And so I just, not only me doing human design stuff, I don't know if can I say this on your,
Oh, go
you
ahead, go
know,
for it.
well, I'm psychic and I'm a medium. So that also brings another element to the work that I do. So I'm able to see in a little bit more and to just help people cultivate their own sense of self.
Mhm. That's so good. And so when you say that your purpose is to help people figure out that they belong, it was something around that,
Where they
right?
belong.
Where they belong. Like, have you always known that? Or like, when did you figure out, like, this is my purpose? This is what I'm here to do?
Probably when I felt like I didn't belong. So,
Okay.
I think your purpose sometimes does come from pain. And so the way that I grew up, I never felt like I belonged. In, certain many different aspects, whether it be socioeconomic, whether it just be family dynamics. I never really felt like I belonged. So it was always my search and my quest to figure out where I fit in. Why was I different? How could I make the most of my experiences? And through that, I learned so much. And I learned about who I am and how to grow with that and how to be just to how to come into my own self and to really be assured of myself. And that took a long time to do.
Yeah, I'm glad that you shared that because so many people think like they're supposed to be able to figure out their purpose like right away, or their purpose is supposed to make them money, and just all of these things I think we see on social media. And what I feel like is that number one, we all have a purpose. We're all here for some bigger reason, and it's to serve other people. And I feel like more often than not, the reason why people don't know what their purpose is because there's so many things that's clouding their vision. And I feel like if you just get silent and if you tap into certain things like the work that you do, you can really discover, okay, this is why I'm here and this is what I'm here to do. And I just think people overthink it a lot, because I know I was for a very long time. I did. So I love that you're very clear on why you're here and what you're here to do. So I think that that's really important. What do you enjoy most about living on your own terms?
Oh, gosh. I would say now that being confident in decision making. Um, so often we make decisions based on how other people are going to react. And I you don't realize how much you do that until you start really making decisions based off of how you feel and what you want to do, and being, as I like to say, being honest with yourself. And the more honest that you are with yourself, the better you can live your life more in your terms. But that comes at a price. Honesty comes at losing friends, losing family, people judging you, people feeling a certain way about you. But when you are comfortable and confident in that, you become okay with that. And that is probably the hardest part that people deal with, is the honesty and being themselves and really saying, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, because it's going to involve you not caring about other people's feelings in essence, and putting yourself first.
Now, have you always had that? Because like not caring about other people's opinion of you and being confident within yourself, where it's like, okay, I can show up and be this honest version and I'm doing it solely for myself and not based on what other people may think or feel.
No. No. I never forget, and it's so funny. I was talking to a friend about this. It was the first time where I decided not to go to Christmas, to my family's Christmas, because I've always felt like I didn't belong, tons of stuff, all of that. And so I was talking to my therapist, and I was just saying, I don't want to go. I feel uncomfortable. I always feel this way or that way. And he looked at me. He said, "Well, just don't go." And I was just like, "What do you mean? Don't go?" And he's just like, "Just don't go." Mind you, I was like, what, 24, 25. He was just like, "Just don't go." And I was just like, "I don't understand. What do you mean not go to Christmas?" And he was just like, "Just don't go." He's like, "You don't have to go." And I was like, "Yes, I do." And he said, "No, you don't." He's like, "You literally do not have to go." And I remember telling my mom, because at the time I was living at home, and I was just like, "I'm not going." And she was just like, "Why not?" She's like, I need somebody to help me drive. Mind you, we were living in New Jersey and we were going to the Bronx. She's like, "I need somebody to help me drive." And I was just like, "No, you don't." And we literally got into an argument because I didn't
Mhm.
want to go to Christmas. And it was like the most anxiety driven kind of thing. And I didn't go. She was mad at me, but then I felt so good.
Mm.
I felt so good. And that was like one of the first times where I was just like, I don't have to do things that I don't want to do.
Mhm.
And that was just like, of course, it was a snowball effect. And, there's some guilt and things like that. But so often we do things so just like that, so simple, just to appease other people. I literally did not want to go because I didn't feel like it. And I didn't want to have certain feelings. I didn't want to be involved in my mom and her sister's drama when they got to the part of the night where they start fighting. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and so that was just one of those like really defining moments in my life where I was just like, hey, I get to choose. And so often we don't have those moments. There's people who live years and years who don't have those moments, who never stand up for you, who don't stand up for yourself, and you
Hmm.
don't do the things that you want to do because of someone else's reaction. And so for me, that was like when I first started like coming into that.
Yeah, I have a similar story actually with my therapist. And it was in a session. And one of the things she shared is that you have the right to own your own voice. Like you have the right to speak your own truth. And as long as you're not trying to hurt anyone, you're not trying to make people feel bad or anything like that, like you have a right to own your own voice and speak your truth. And I'm like, do I? Like, can I? What does that even look like?
It
Especially if
feels
you're,
weird.
it feels very weird, especially if you're someone that has always, like myself, I allowed others to take the lead. And even if I felt a certain kind of way or something bothered me, I would keep it to myself. So now you're telling me I can own my own voice. Well, what the heck does that even look like? And it's taken some time. And I can honestly say that I'm in a much better space today than I was years ago, like trying to figure it all out. But it's like, just like with your therapist, we got permission to stand up for ourselves. And I think that that is a beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that. So we didn't even mention, like, because you're also the owner of Goodnight, Darling, right? We only
Oh
started
God.
with, like, you have
Shh.
a whole
Don't
other
tell
company,
anybody.
right? Oh my goodness. And so the next question is going to lead either, and you can share from both perspectives, like describe a great success that you've had thus far, big or small. And so it can be from human design work or, Goodnight, Darling, or whatever else you do, because you do a lot.
Um, oh God, I guess for Goodnight Darling, the biggest success was not the biggest, but um I there's so many. I'll pick maybe the I'll pick maybe the first success where I was like, "Oh wow, this is something." And it was when, well, I am in several West Elm stores um in the DMV area. But when they first reached out to me to do a pop-up shop, that was probably like the biggest thing because they found me on Instagram. They were like, "Hey, we have this thing and we would love for you to come and do a pop-up shop." And I went up there and I met the store manager at the time, who I'm still cool with, which is funny. And they were like, "Yeah, let's do a pop-up shop." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in West Elm," because my West Elm story is, I remember because West Elm was founded in Brooklyn, and so they had a store in Dumbo, and it was their first store, and I never forget. I used to get the West Elm catalog, and I was just like, oh my god, I want all the West Elm furniture, like, and it was just such a big deal, like, to like get the catalog. And I went to the store in Dumbo, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love the store. And then for them to be reaching out to me to do a pop-up shop there, and then a few months later I got picked up by them. That's probably one of the bigger things that definitely
Awesome.
happens.
And then what would you say for your human design work, like a great success for you? Big or small?
I think I really love being on podcasts.
Hmm.
I love being on a podcast, and I would say my podcast grew pretty steadily. I started it I think I did one episode in May. Yeah, I think I did one episode in May, and then I took me like 3 weeks to do another episode, or maybe it was in April. It took me like a long time to do another episode because this is my third podcast that I've had, and it just grew really fast. Like, I've already surpassed 20,000 downloads.
Yes.
Like, so that's like, I was just like, wow, people are listening, even though people, I don't know, it's my voice is very, there's a lot of like behind the scenes and backstory with my voice that is just, I always get very surprised when people compliment me on my voice. So that's really where I was just like, wow, people are listening to this. So
I love that. And that's a huge success. Because I remember when you started your podcast, and now look at you, 20,000
I
downloads.
know.
That is
Look at
amazing.
me.
Look, you're growing up, right? I love it. So you've shared some great successes from both companies. So what has been your biggest challenge as a business owner?
Gosh. with Goodnight Darling, it's still challenging. What I will say is if products-based businesses are very different from service-based businesses. Please do not let anybody if you let me give a little disclaimer. If you are in this, if you've never owned a products-based business, do not coach people on owning a products-based business, because you really don't know what's going on, unless you've owned one before or something, because it's a lot that entails. It's a lot of stuff. It's not just branding. It's not just. It's so many things. It is a different animal in its own. Some days I hate it. Some days I love it. But it's a challenge. And you have to be really passionate about it, and you really have to be passionate about your product. So yes, it's a new challenge all the time. Sometimes days is good, sometimes it's not. It's just so many intricate things, especially like when you find like a vendor that you really love, where you get some of your packaging from, and every single piece of the puzzle has another layer to it, with manufacturing, with all of that stuff. It's just so many pieces. So, and it's not saying that it's all challenging. It really depends on what you're selling. Sometimes everybody has their own kind of challenge within their products based business. So I will say that. But overall, it's great. Because sometimes people are scared to take the leap. You have to take the leap, if you want some type of success. And then challenges with my personal brand and human design stuff is just time, because I'm only one person. I can't, so that's probably like the most challenging thing.
Yeah, and so how do you balance it all? Like, because that's a lot with having a service-based business, a product-based business, and trying to, stay afloat with both. Like, what does that look like? Like, how do you balance, if there is any kind of balance?
There will be balance for me in 2020.
Yes,
I
yes,
will
yes,
say
yes.
that, because I'm making the proper I'm doing the right thing to get balance, which I'm hiring a virtual assistant to do the things that I don't want to do. I'm doing a lot of stuff. Like, I'm even hiring a cleaning lady finally,
Yes.
like, just because I just don't have the time. There are some weeks where it's like, oh, okay, this is cool, this is what's up, and there are other weeks like I'm crying in a fetal position. So it just really depends. But for the most part, for me, I don't have any children. I have two dogs, so that's a little bit easier. I don't know how people who have kids run businesses, because I would leave home.
Right.
I'm
It's
like, oh,
tough. It's tough.
y'all are getting on my nerves. I gotta go.
Right. Hence the reason why I go and work outside of the home, because it is a lot. And there's so many different areas where I'm being pulled. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to do this, but yeah, they need me too. And so I don't believe in balance. I believe in trying to find some type of harmony in it all.
Yeah.
And I think, not even I think, I feel very good on how things are going specifically this year, because my husband and I have really worked as a team to make sure everything flows. What keeps you motivated on days when you feel overwhelmed?
Oh, the fact that I don't own a Ferrari or a private jet yet. That's probably the only keeps me motivated. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, those are my goals in life. Like, my goal for 2020 actually is to buy myself a Rolex for Christmas next year.
Okay.
I have it priced out and everything. So like, that's what keeps me motivated, is that I don't own a private jet yet, and I don't have a Ferrari. And that's probably what's gonna keep me motivated until I get it. Cause that's just some of my bucket list, like, oh, I've made it
Mm.
kind of things. I think the Ferrari is more likely first. The private jet is not really, it doesn't really make sense. Maybe a private jet membership, but not an actual private jet. So those are the things that are like like accomplishments. Like, I can go and buy a Ferrari. That is
Mhm.
like a milestone for me. So since I can't do that, I have, that's how I keep motivated.
Right. And I love that, because everyone that I have brought on and we've had these conversations, obviously everyone's answer is different. But I love that it's fitting based on your personality, based on the things that you like, you know what I mean? Like, what keeps you motivated? Because I don't have what I want yet, and I want a Ferrari and I want a private jet or at least a membership, and even having that goal of, yeah, I'm going to buy myself a Rolex. Like, I think it's beautiful to have goals like that. And again, you get to explore what they should be based on what you desire most. So I love that. So what's your biggest fear and how do you overcome your fears?
My biggest fear is me giving up
Mm.
and just like saying, you know what, I'm just gonna go and in granted, this does not knock anybody who likes working in the corporate world, who loves having that security, but freedom is more important to me than security. So I that is probably, if I just give up and just, go work in a corporate arena for the rest of my life, that would be giving up for me.
Mhm. And so how do you overcome that fear?
I just keep going. I
Yeah.
keep going. When I get knocked down, I keep going. Or, when things happen, I keep going. Because what I know for sure is that the vision that God put in my heart, it doesn't go away. So therefore, it's something that still needs to be pursued. Once it goes away, then it'll be like, okay, maybe this is change of plans, but it's never gone away. No matter how bad I thought things got, or matter how things didn't work out, that feeling of me having what I wanted and the lifestyle that I've always dreamt of has never gone away.
I can relate to that too, because there's been many times when I'm like, I am over this. This is too much. I don't want to do this anymore. But the feeling, the thought, like you can't shake it. It's almost like it keeps calling you. And it's like, all right, I'm just having a moment. I'm not going to give up. Let me kind of figure this thing out. And there's always some type of experience that I have, whether a friend reaches out to me, somebody on social media will share how amazing Be Free Project is, how their life has changed. I'm like, okay, I got my second win. Let me keep going. But it's hard. And I want people to understand that, like, no matter what you're doing in life, like, it's going to be difficult, but you have to just decide that you're not going to give up, period. And I'm in the same space as you. Like, I'm never giving up on this. I may take a break for a little bit, but I'm not going to give up because it's like this calling that you have on your life. I love that. So what has been the most important thing that you've learned about yourself this year?
Ooh, child.
I know,
We're
I
gonna
know. When I thought about it, I was like, we talk so much. I'm like, I'm interested to hear your answer
woo.
for sure.
We're gonna have to spend another hour on this. No, oh gosh. The most important thing, I'll give my top things.
Okay.
Uh, I guess one of them is how much value I bring to the table in multiple facets, to people, to companies, to clients, to strangers, how much value I bring. That what is probably the number one thing that I've learned about myself is how much value I bring to others. The second thing would be is how much my voice does matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just speaking back to my voice, I've been prophesized over, and seers of seers have said things like all my life about my voice. And I even at one point had a thyroid cancer scare, and just so many things surrounding my voice. And this year it made me realize how important my voice is. Not just what I say, but the actual sound of my voice.
Mm.
And that was really, really important. And then the third thing that I realized is how much I've grown,
Mm-hmm.
how honest I was with myself, and how much I have grown. It took me a long time to come out and say, like, oh, I'm a psychic channel, I'm a medium, all that stuff. This is stuff that I've been dealing with my whole entire life since I was a kid. Now I'm just like, this is what it is. It is what it is. And so just of how much I've grown and how honest I am with myself and my truth. And so that has just been, yeah, like that's just those three things have been just like really big, really life
Mm-hmm.
changing.
And has there been an experience that you've had this year that had that like light bulb moment or aha moment that Oprah likes to say, where you're like, all right, I am valuable. Like like, have you had a moment that made that moment
Several.
real? Okay.
The value moment and the oh, I'm not crazy. So
Hmm.
the value moment, along with my products based business and my service based business, part of my service based business, I also do consulting work for mid-sized corporations, and I come in and I help them like implement systems and sales operations because I have 15 years of corporate sales experience. And I would say my last, well, a CEO that I work for, he just was like amazed at how much value I bring and how much value I brought to, and it was just very interesting to just how people can see it when you can't see it. And so it was not only him, but his other colleagues, they praised me at this particular thing that we had went through. So that was one thing. And then me not being crazy was I decided to, I said, okay, let me, because I always knew that I saw things and heard voices ever since I was a kid. So I decided to go to this mediumship training for a weekend. And when I tell you, I was just like, oh my gosh, now I know I'm not crazy, because the way that I really thought that information was supposed to come to me in a different way. But the way that it does come to me is that's just the way it comes to me. And so we had to read people in the group, and everybody who I read, it was so spot on. And the teacher was just like, you just need some practice. And I was just like, I found that amazing, just because, ever since I was a kid, I've been having these visions or hearing voices and, meeting people. And then pictures would start playing in my mind. And I just be like, I don't know where that came from. But it was just the other side, just like trying to come through me and talk to me. And I didn't understand that. So through that workshop, I was like, oh, that's how it works for me. Because I
Hmm.
don't see like figures and like people standing there. That ain't me. It comes to me through clear audience, clairvoyance, and also a little bit of clairsentience kind of things. And so that was just like really one of the most like, oh my gosh, like wow, that's interesting. So those are my two things.
And I
Those are
love
my
that.
two
And
things.
we kind of had that experience right before, well, way before The Motherless Child came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right before I was going to send out an email. And I believe the title of it was Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child or something around that. And you had sent me a Voxer message or whatever, and you were telling me what your guys were saying, and you felt like I should do something around the motherless child. Now, hence, we had not had any conversation about it whatsoever when it came to that topic, not in that way. And so when you said that, and then I was literally scheduling an email, I'm like, there's something to this. And so I ended up sending the email, and now the Motherless Child Guidebook and all that jazz is out. But it just goes to show you, like, when you really tap into yourself, and then if people are open to hearing, because that's the thing, when you have
Ooh, child.
religious folks, and there's nothing against anybody, right? But everybody is not open to receive, and
Well,
it's all.
my
Oh, go ahead.
saying is, which I'm going to talk about it one day on my podcast. But my saying is always, how it praise the prophet, shun the psychic, and it's just like we get our information from the same place. The only thing they can do better than me is quote Bible verses. That's it.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that is probably the hardest thing for me coming into actually claiming I'm a psychic channel, I'm a medium, all of these years, because of people not being receptive.
Yes.
And from that, oh, that's not right, and this, that, and the other, and then be the first ones to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, what you said did come true, or this did happen. I'm just like, oh, okay, girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I stopped at one point, I was reading people and I stopped doing it, and I made a decision to like only take on clients who had already been, getting readings from me. I have like the same couple of people get readings from me like every year. They get it once a year. And I just like, so I've just kind of like, backed off from that, because I don't want to spend time convincing people. And so that's always been a very back and forth kind of thing with me.
Yeah, and I think people shouldn't be judgmental just because they can't relate. Um, because they sometimes people can just be so close-minded, and it's really irritating. I have a friend who is also she's an energy healer, and I'm actually going to have her on the podcast as well. And that's conversations that we had in the past, like how people can be so overly churchy and automatically have something negative to say based on their personal experiences, and I don't think that that's fair. Like, if you don't if you're not interested, that's cool, but like don't be mean about it and don't like come off in this like rude kind of way.
Right.
So what are you most proud of
This year or just in general?
in general or this year, whichever you choose?
um Gosh, that's a hard one. It's not hard. I think I'm just proud of myself. Like, I've come a long way. Ooch. In so many areas, I've come a long way. With finances, to really believing in myself so much to, like, do things on my own. Just, when it comes to work, like, just take it. I'm just really proud of how far I've come in a lot of areas. And it's just been like, before this, I was just like, actually last night, I was just like doing a tally of things, and I was just like, wow, look at you. I'm not worried about certain stuff. Like, I'm not, like, I budget, like I have a savings account. Like, I know that sounds, but just with me being an entrepreneur, I'm a risk taker. Since I don't have any kids, I will risk a lot. And just me really stepping into the person that I want to become and actually taking 100% accountability into doing it is so important. This is why, like, if you haven't hired Siobhan, you should, but she's not my coach, but I've hired people to help me and to assist me with, like, it's so important to, like, have people to support you and for you to be able to. I think when it comes to therapy and coaching, I feel like it is a luxury, but it's also a necessity.
Yes. Oh,
People who
yes.
don't invest in themselves, and some people are like, oh well, she, her prices are too high or things like that. No, you just can't afford it right now. Just say that. Just be 100 with yourself. Don't say that somebody's prices is too high, because there's apparently somebody's paying for it, because this person, whether they are booked and busy or just have one or two clients, somebody's paying for it. I think what people, and this is what I've noticed, that what distinguishes someone who's really serious about taking their life to the next level and not yourself. And this is something that I can relate to. Your self motivation, your self taughtness, your DIY-ness can only take you so far.
Hmm.
And I wish people would understand that more. So if you can, find a therapist, find a coach that's within your price range, and then move along, because every level has a different person or whatever. But it's so important to invest in yourself,
Yeah.
that because you cannot grow, you cannot accomplish certain things, because you're working with, and I speak upon this in my teachings, you're working with someone who you don't want to be anymore. That is yourself. What if I don't want to be this person where I am right now? How far do you think they're going to take you? They cannot take you but so far. You don't want to be this person anymore. And I think people don't realize how much we are in our own way, regardless of how many books we read, how many things we actually do. Sometimes it takes another person to see something in you, to help you get to another level, to hold you accountable, to do these things. And that's what I'm most proud of, is because I'm a very self-motivated person, but I knew that I could only take myself so far. So, getting the right people around me. And then now next year I'm doing an extensive and hiring more people, because I can only do so much.
Mhm. That is so good, so, so rich. And like you, like working with a coach and going to therapy, but also for me, like building friendships with people
Yes.
who are,
Yes. Like-minded, who have the,
yes.
and we talk about this all the time, but listen, if you listen, whoever's listening to this, When that saying, you are the average of the five, it is so true. The people around you, and it's sad to say, it could be even your spouse. They can be the determining factor to your success or to your demise. Please pay attention, because it is so true. We get so comfortable in having these people around and not offending people and not wanting to rock the boat and not wanting to be different, that we allow ourselves to stay in these situations with friendships, relationships, with family dynamics that do not serve our growth. You cannot be where you want to be or who you want to be if you keep hanging around the same person. Like, sometimes your spouse is a hater. Like, that's just reality. And I was in a relationship where my partner, he was a hater, and I didn't realize until I left. And it's just, you just have to realize those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really do. And I think it's so important that you be honest with yourself, right? And honest with the people that you do have in your life. And if they are not where, let's just say, if the people that are in your life are not growing and they're not evolving, but yet you're spending so much time with them on a day-to-day basis, you're going to become like them. It's just inevitable, right? And so I think it's really, really important that you really surround yourself, like you said, with positive, like-minded people. And that's something that I'm very grateful for. Like this year, maybe the last couple of years, I've been opening myself up to new relationships. And I'm very, very, very grateful for the friends that I have, because they challenge me outside of my comfort zone, and it's such a safe space. So I'm glad that, you know, like you know, having people around you that support the vision, because it's so important. And so my next question leads to, like, how do you support other women? Because I'm all about here, as you know, like community, supporting other women. So how do you do that in your life and in your business?
So here is the thing. Supporting other women or other people in general can be hard for some, depending on where you are in your life. And the reason why it is hard is because, and to anybody listening, and I know this to be true, is because you're not honest with what you want for yourself. You see so many other people have certain things and do certain things, and you are like, why not me? When in actuality, it shouldn't be you, because it's probably not really what you want. But you haven't sat down with yourself long enough to really get out the kinks, to figure out why you feel this way, to figure out why are not where you want to be. So we look to other people and we sort of blame them for our success or lack of it. We're like, well, she's doing this, good for her, but I want, I'm going to have this better than her, or something like that. It doesn't have to be that way. And it's truly because you can't be happy for other people because you're not happy for yourself. And a lot of people don't want to come to they don't want to come to that realization. They're like, oh no, I'm happy for her, go sis, and all of this stuff. And it's just so phony. And it's just like, how I became happy for other people, because I started really realizing what I want. Yes. So when my friends say, this is what I want, they can be truly happy for me, or I can be truly happy for them, because I know that that's not what I want for myself, but I know for her, then that's something that she wants. And that is, key. And so it becomes where you don't have to be afraid to talk about your goals and your dreams. And, with me wanting the Ferrari, you don't feel a certain way about that because you don't want no damn Ferrari.
No, I don't. No.
You know what I mean?
Look, I want an Audi SUV that has been on my vision board. Yes.
So that is where people can't be happy for other people, because they're looking for other people to validate things that they don't even want themselves. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's easier to be happy for someone because I know exactly what I want, and it doesn't look like what you want.
And that is the reason, or one of the main reasons for this podcast, is to really challenge people to figure out, what the heck do you want? Because like you said, what you want and what I want is completely different, but that takes nothing away from our friendship. And that is why it's so important to surround yourself with people that match your energy, get crystal clear about what you do want for your life. So then that way you can support other women and other people in general, and you're not envious and jealous of them, but yet, no, you can celebrate them because they're going after what they want and you're doing the same thing. So I think that is So important. What energizes you or make you feel most alive?
Money, but not in that way of like greed, but more in a way of security, securing myself, securing my four walls, being able to have a savings account, being able to like, have emergencies and not being, not it's not a big thing. Like, yeah, I'm like, damn, I had to, for my dog, I just had to spend $600 2 weekends ago on something for him because he got sick, but it didn't break me. Like that energizes me to
Mhm.
that. I've come to that place where financially I am not anxious every month.
Yes. That's real. That's real. And kudos to you for being able to
Thank you.
take care of your puppy
Thank
and
you.
having that emergency fund. And I love that that's what energizes you, security, being able to take care of what's important to you and not be overwhelmed and stressed and all of that jazz. So I love that. So we have a few more questions. What book would you highly recommend the Girl Be Free listeners read? And I know it's a
Um,
hard one because you read a lot like myself. So,
well, no, this is the easy
oh,
one.
good. Yay.
Somebody might have said this already, but I would say Worthy by Nancy Levine. Okay, well, it's Levine, Levin. Yeah, so Levin. Nancy Levin. It's called Worthy. It's probably one of my favorite books. You could buy the audiobook or the paperback, but it's just such a good book. Yes, she's a Caucasian woman, but she's still a woman, and her story about worth and making money for herself is very interesting. And how she, in a way, let it. You just got to read the book, and it just the whole premise of the book is your self-worth winds up becoming your net worth. And it really helped me to find worth in certain things that I do and all of that stuff. So that's why I love that book.
Yeah, I actually own it. I'm halfway through. I need to
Oh,
finish
so
it.
it's good though,
Yeah,
right?
it's really, really good. I have a bad habit of starting
Girl,
books.
that's me too. That's my goal is. So I said before the new year, I'm gonna buy like maybe 5 more books, and then I can't read any more, buy any more books
Hmm.
until I read 10 books that I already have,
Hmm.
and then I can buy more books.
I told my husband last night, I said, I'm putting myself on a book ban. I have two coming in the mail, but after,
Right. I said
I
I'm about to
said,
order
right,
5,
I
and
have
then
two
that's it.
on the way. Yes. And I said, but after this, I said, I cannot order any more new books until I read what I have because I have so many that I really want to complete, but I've just been, I don't know what
Yeah,
I've been
it's so,
doing.
what happens is that I don't push through with books. When it starts getting boring, I'll be like, all right, let me put this down.
Hmm.
But that's why I'm gonna force myself to push through the
Yes.
book because I'm probably missing some things
Hmm.
that I should be. And I'm just gonna. I went through all my bookshelves and everything. I was like, okay, I need to read this. I need to read that. No more. So my goal actually is to read 2 books a month.
Okay.
I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but that's the goal.
Oh, well, I just downloaded this app that my a guest was on the show, Elise, shared with me, and I'll text it to you and I'll link it to in the
Okay.
show notes. But it's called a Reading List. Have you heard of that app?
Oh no, not at
Yes.
all.
So it's called Reading List, and you just scan the ISBN number code or whatever, and then it uploads your book, and then you update what page you're on, and it keep track for you.
Oh, is that
Isn't
free?
that great? Yes, it's a free app. Yes.
Oh, I need that.
And it's so funny because I
Yes.
put worthy in there so I can finally complete it. But yes,
Oh,
it's
I
called
that
Reading List, and I will
I
link to
need
it in the show
that.
notes. Yeah,
Yes, I
Elise
need that.
Johnson, she was on a podcast, and she also is in the Be Free Inner Circle, and she shared it with the community. I'm like, oh my goodness, I so need this. Thank you. So now I'm sharing it with you.
That sounds like an amazing, amazing book.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, what advice would you give to someone just starting out? And I really, specifically when it comes to changing their life and doing the work.
Mm-mm-mm. Gosh, the advice I would give them is, gosh, that's a hard one. I would give them, well, I would tell them it's going to be uncomfortable as hell. That is for sure. I would also say to them that mm, 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 mm. It's going to be uncomfortable as hell. I would also tell them that do not give up when it gets hard, because it will get hard. Growth is, and me, I'm working on something titled The Insecurity of Growth. Um, growth is probably, and I say this a lot in my work, I would have rather somebody break up with me over and over again than have to deal with myself. Um, it was probably just the most challenging and uncomfortable thing that I could have ever went through, and I'm still going through it, but I've gotten through the bulk of it. And just don't give up and be ready to face yourself.
That is great advice, especially around the growth, because I think that that is the hardest part, especially as you're growing as an individual and you're letting go of people and things that no longer serve you. And when you want to hold on to people like so tightly, and in order for you to grow, you have to release them. There's a shifting there. And then also not giving up. I think that that is the key thing as well. Like, no matter what, because life is going to get hard, creating
Yes.
businesses, doing all the things, it's going to be hard.
Yes.
That's just life, but not to give up and be intentional with
Yeah.
moving forward. Yeah. What does being free mean to you?
Ooh, child. That means to me, that means living on your own terms. And it means choices and making choices and doing whatever you want to do. And I've realized, and we've learned this, do several things, that choice, and I hate to bring up money again, but that's what money does for you. That's what financially being free and being um just financially well, and not necessarily completely debt free, but just budgeting. That's what freedom is: being free, making choices. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes those choices include money. And you'd be surprised that when you are not financially fit or even on the path to it, how much money impacts your choices. And so for me, being free means being secure financially, being able to take care of myself to how I want to be taken care of myself. And also to being as honest as possible to know that what you want and what you don't want. I think
Yes.
that's probably the biggest thing, is that my freedom is solely reliant on me and what I want, not what anybody else wants from me anymore, not what society thinks I should have, not what my family thinks I should have, what my neighborhood thinks I should have been. It's what I want. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
being free means to me.
I absolutely love it. So please share with the listeners where they can connect with you and all that jazz.
Well, you can find me on Instagram at AC Brown. And then you can find me on YouTube very soon and same AC Brown. And on my podcast is my Aura on Straight. That's my podcast where I talk about astrology, human design, metaphysics, quantum physics, all of that stuff. And I also talk about uh, just different spiritual self development topics. And that's pretty much it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that I link all of the things in the show notes for sure. And I just want to personally thank you for being on the show. I've shared this with you. I believe it was earlier this week. I have my days all mixed up or whatever, but I really, really, really appreciate our friendship. And I love what we've been able to build, and what we're continuing to build. And you came into my life when I didn't even think that I don't know. I just didn't, how you feel like you're
Siobhan
good.
didn't think she was gonna like me,
No,
y'all. That's what
that's not it.
happens.
That is not it. We just have different personalities, but yet we have so many things in common. And so I'm
We have
very
so many
grateful.
things in common.
We do. We really do. And
So
I'm
many
really
things.
grateful that our paths have crossed in a way where we're able to build something really solid. And I wish that for a lot of people. Like, find your tribe, find your community, and don't be afraid of meeting people online, because we met online.
Yes.
And now we
And
talk every day, all day.
every day. And I
We do.
think what happens is that, and this is another thing, back to the clarity part. I don't want what you want. So I can
Yes.
be happy for what you are trying to get, and I can be supportive and encourage you and motivate you. for the things that you want to do, because there's no animosity, there's no jealousy, there's no, because I'm so clear on my path, you're so clear on yours. So we come together and we can support each other in a way that is like, because when I do get my Ferrari, I'm gonna call you and let
Yes.
me like it'll
Yes, let me fly in so we can ride
right.
together. Yes.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
so we've even talked about this year, like going places together and
Yes.
doing, so it's just so many. I don't think people understand. And I hope your listeners, if they take away anything, is that the more clear you are and the more honest that you are with who you want to be, the universe is going to answer you. The universe is going to
Yes.
align people, experiences, um, networks, opportunities around you, that it's just going to be mind blowing just because of your clarity.
Yes. I agree 100%. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being on the show. And until next time, girl, be free. Hey, BFFs. I want to personally invite you to BeFreeInnerCircle.com, your community for real sisterhood where women are showing up and doing the work. Whether you're still trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, or you need accountability to keep pushing forward to reach your goals, the Be Free Inner Circle is the community for you. You can expect curated content that will support you on becoming the best version of yourself, live office hours and Q&A sessions where we chat about things like overcoming self-doubt, building your confidence, practicing self-care without guilt, and so much more. Virtual live events from book clubs and workshops with guest speakers, and a supportive and active community of women that will encourage you, hold you accountable, cheer you on, and give you honest feedback and advice. It's the perfect place to be for women who are ready to show up, flourish, and be free. Join today at BeFreeInnerCircle.com.